Hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome to yet another brand new video of My Cricket Dreams. Myself Adit Nair, and in today's video we will be discussing about World War II. So in my previous video I had talked about World War I and some quick facts about it. And so in this video we would be talking about World War II and why it was such a deadly war. And the circumstances that led to the deadliest war that mankind has ever seen. So in our imagination, it is the Axis powers that had started the war. The Axis powers, mainly the Germany, Italy and Japan. So we have to know about circumstances in which these Axis powers had to fight. For example, Germany was absolutely wrecked by the Treaty of Versailles, by which it had to ban its own air force. It had to reduce its army to just around 100,000 men. And it had to go away from a Rhineland, which was a strategic area, piece of land, which I think so is quite near to France. So, for a common German one, when hearing this Treaty of Versailles, it was quite humiliating for them, be they a German woman, boy, girl, or man. One such man was Adolf Hitler. He was a great lover of Germany, and he wanted to make Germany great again. He always felt that God chosen him as the savior of Germany. So, but still, one question comes into your mind: how did Hitler rose to power? Hitler rose to power through the Nazi Party, an organization he formed after returning as a wounded veteran from annihilating trench warfare of World War I. Now, Germany is just one of the few Axis powers of World War II. So, after Germany, there is another country, Italy. So, how did Italy join the Axis side? Actually, before World War II, World War I, Italy had joined the Allies side. And actually, the Italy and Germany had signed a deal in which it said that both countries would protect against each other in case of an attack by a third party. But when the Allies promised Italy a bunch of land, Italy switched sides and joined the Allies side. After the war ended, when the Allies won, Italy expected that it would get a huge amount of land. But at the end, Italy only got a few land. Very few. Thus, the Italian people and most importantly the government felt cheated and betrayed. Moreover, the Italian government was at the same time very weak, corruptible, and was able to be easily managed by almost everyone. Therefore, in 1922, a man called Benito Mussolini led a coalition of fascist leaders to Rome, the capital city, and forced the king to yield to the government. Mussolini was appointed the prime minister, and by 1925 he had disbanded Italy's democratic government and, acting as a dictator, declared himself the lone leader of Italy. Therefore, we have now seen the circumstances by which World War II happened. Why Germany and Italy was so much angry, was so much frustrated, and these reasons which I had just said might be the reasons why World War II had started. Now we can see World War II. Now we can see the different theaters in which the war started, in which the war had taken a huge toll. The European theater, German aggression. The war in Europe began in September 1939 when Germany under Chancellor Adolf Hitler invaded Poland. Britain and France responded by declaring war on Germany but took little action over the following months. In 1940, Germany launched its next initiative by attacking Denmark and Norway, following shortly thereafter by attacks on Belgium, the Netherlands and France. All these nations were conquered rapidly. The Battle of Britain. Later in the summer of 1940, Germany launched a further attack on Britain, this time exclusively from the air. The Battle of Britain was Germany's first military failure as the German Air Force, the Luftwaffe, was never able to overcome the Britain's Royal Air Force. Greece and North Africa. As Hitler plotted his next steps, Italy, an ally of Germany, expanded the war even further by invading Greece and North Africa. The Greek campaign was a failure, and Germany was forced to come to Italy's assistance in early 1941. The USSR. Later in 1941, Germany began its most ambitious action yet by invading the Soviet Union, which proved to be a blunder. Although the Germans initially made swift progress and advanced deep into the Russian heartland, the invasion of USSR would prove to be the downfall of Germany's war effort. The country was just too big, and although Russia's initial resistance was weak, the nation's strength and determination combined with its brutal winters would eventually be more than the German army could overcome. In 1943, after the battles of Stalingrad and Kursk, Germany was forced into a full-scale retreat. During the course of 1944, the Germans were slowly but steadily forced completely out of Soviet territory, after which the Russians pursued them across Eastern Europe and into Germany itself in 1945. The Normandy invasion. In June 1944, British and American forces launched the D-Day invasion, landing in German-occupied France via the coast of Normandy. Soon the German army was forced into retreat from that side as well. Thus, by early 1945, Allied forces were closing in on Germany from both east and west. The Soviets were the first to reach the German capital of Berlin, and Germany surrendered in May 1945, shortly after the suicide of Adolf Hitler. Thus, this is the European theatre. I know it has been quite quick. I have told it within 3-4 minutes, but I hope you understand about this. Now we can look into another side of the world, the Pacific Theater, Pearl Harbor. The war in Pacific began on December 7, 1941, when warplanes from Japan launched a surprise attack on U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii. By this time, Japan had already been at war with China for several years and had seized the Chinese territory of Manchuria after the Pearl Harbor attack. Japan began a massive campaign of expansion throughout the Southeast Asia-Pacific region. The U.S. entrance and the Battle of Midway. Although Pearl Harbor attack provoked a declaration of war by United States on Japan the very next day, it would be several months before U.S. forces would get seriously involved militarily. In late spring of 1942, during the heat of the war, the United States and Japan engaged in a series of naval battles, climaxing into the Battle of Midway on June 3-6, 1942, in which Japan suffered a catastrophic defeat. The Solomon Islands. For the next year, the United States engaged Japan in a protracted struggle for the Solomon Islands, which lay near the vital Allied shipping routes. Between August 1942 and February 1940, the Allied forces carried out an invasion, the beginning of a long series of Allied offensives that would eventually force Japanese out of the Solomons and then pursue them from various other Pacific island chains that the Japanese had earlier seized. In the meantime, British and Indian forces were combating Japanese troops in Burma as well. The approach to Japan. Fighting continued throughout the Pacific in 1944 and early 1945, including major battles at Leyte, Iwo Jima and Okinawa. By the late spring of 1945, most of Japan's conquest had been liberated and Allied forces were closing in on Japanese homelands. As they neared Japan proper, the Allies began heavy bombing campaigns against major Japanese cities, including Tokyo, the capital city. This process continued through the summer of 1945 until finally in early August, the United States had dropped 2 atomic bombs on the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Stunned by the unexpected devastation, Japan surrendered a few days later as well. Therefore, this is my short summary about World War II. I hope you all liked about this video, and therefore kindly subscribe the channel and you can talk about this video in the comment section. Thank you and have a nice day.